Welcome to another episode of UCRD Reviews. So today we have a regular Robot Spirits release. This one's a P Bandai exclusive, and it comes from Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack, Beltorchika's Children. So this is the MSN-03-2 Psycho Doga. This is the mobile suit in the novel that would become the Yak Doga in the movie, and it was piloted by Grave Gus instead of Gune Gus, although essentially they're the same character. But it's a pretty cool looking mobile suit, and hopefully a cool looking figure. So you have some nice box art here. The side there, you have a profile, and you have the back. So it is P Bandai, which means it's going to be expensive. We'll discuss the price closer to the end of the video. And it's kind of a plain design. We've never seen it in figure form before, but it has some cool accessories and features, so let's see if it's worth the price tag. So here is the Psycho Doga. Really cool looking mobile suit. Very much reminds me of the Sinanju Stein in terms of coloring. And it's just a beefy looking Char's Counterattack style mobile suit. I really like this one's design here. Looks like we need to attach the backpack, so let me put the figure aside and let's grab the backpack here. So here's the main component. You have a little pink camera there, and you have a hinged vernier, pretty simple, and this will peg right into the back. And then you have two side verniers that stick upward, and so this one has the insignia there, and this one's just plain. I do want you to take note of the ball joint. So it has kind of a long peg to it, and we will talk about this in just a second, but I'm going to attach all of this stuff real quick and then explain why I'm attaching it off camera. So give me 1 second. Alright, so the reason I did everything off camera is because, and I guess the reason why this review took so long to come out, is because within the first few minutes of owning the Psycho Doga, I actually broke it. And this is my second one. And the way it broke was I attached all of these, I messed around with the figure for a few minutes, and I carefully tried to remove both of these verniers here, and they snapped almost immediately trying to remove them. They are in here really, really good. It takes a lot of force to get them pegged in, and you basically can't remove them. So if you're like me and you like storing your figures in the packaging when you're not using them, this is not one that you can do that with. Once these are in here, they're on. The little ball joint that's in there, if you try to remove this, even if you pull it straight out or however you want to do it, that gets stressed and it's pretty much done for. I mean, you can break it in one try. So I would not recommend trying to remove these once you have them in. It's a bad design. A buddy of mine, Kay, was saying that they really should have made this like the Gelgoog Jaegers, where it's just a straight peg into a hole, and then that peg is ball jointed up in here. But the way they designed this, it's, and it says in the instructions that it's fragile, but it doesn't say that it's non-removable at that point. So really something to watch out for. But now that we have them in, let's take a look at the figure itself here. So from the head, we have a really cool insignia there. Looks good. And you have decent downward movement, virtually no upward movement, and that's because the head is so long here. Your side to side, you can go about that far either side without doing any damage. The top of the head will come off. You can move the mono eye. It's same basic design as the Nightingale, actually, oddly enough. You do have insignias on the sides of the collar there, and obviously, you know, these are ball jointed. You do have weapon storage here. The chest will go down about that far and not up hardly at all. You don't have much turning in the chest either, and that's due to the armor design mainly. The funnels, another thing that I don't like about the figure, the funnels are barely in there. I mean, they come off with very little effort. So don't lose these because they will fall right off. The shoulders will come out a little bit, not much. You do have full rotation here. The shoulder armor doesn't move around a whole lot, you know, outside of the arm movement, but I think that's by design. You do have rotation here. The elbows can't go up very far just because of the armor, you know, the shoulder armor again. The hands are another fragile point here. So you have that, I don't know if you can see it there, you have that ball joint in there, and it's very much like the DJs from the KA Signature line, where you know, the ball joint goes up and down, and if you try and move this side to side, that thing's going to snap. So you got to pay attention to how this thing is oriented, you know, and turn it if you need to, or whatever you want to do, but just be careful of the hands. So moving downward, we have ball jointed, oops, got to stay in frame here, ball jointed skirt armor on the side and ball jointed on the front, although you have very little movement out of it. Rear skirt armor is fixed. The legs have the joint that rotates forward in the hip, and they are ball jointed, and the leg just comes right off. That happened because it hit the armor here. You do have thigh swivels, which is interesting because a lot of the robot spirits haven't had them lately, but you do have a decent amount of leg movement. I mean, not a lot, barely over 90 degrees. You have these pieces, they will recess, although not spring-loaded, interestingly enough. So, decent bit of movement there, nothing crazy. On the feet, oh, we lost a leg again. So you have a leg that pops off easy. Oh, we lost the armor too. So as you can see, it's a little bit finicky. Let me put this in here in a better way. Just because everything's hitting everything else here, so there's not a lot of room for movement. So feet will come down about that far, come up about there. You do have kind of toe articulation, I guess, and then the side to side, you don't have a whole lot either. Bottom of the feet are painted with the thrusters. You don't have any black detail in here, which is kind of disappointing. Same with all of this. The thrusters here on the front and the back have holes, but you don't get thruster effects because this isn't a version anime. So I don't really understand how or why that is like that. The side ones don't have the holes. So I don't know what they were doing there, but so overall the articulation's not all that great. Partly because of the design, and partly because they just weren't, you know, they didn't design this very well to have crazy amounts of articulation. You know, all of this could have been done differently so that it could move around a bit more. But so let's take a look at the accessories and see if that's a better category. Really quickly before we move on to accessories, I forgot to mention you do have the ability to do a decent split there with the legs. So despite some of the articulation shortcomings in the Psycho Doga, that one at least works pretty well. So for the accessories here, we have various sets of hands. So these are your beam tomahawk hands. Pretty simple. You have two different sets of posing hands. So you have your more relaxed ones, and then you have these are the ones I usually use to hold the barrel of guns and stuff. And then you have your trigger hands, which are vital. So pretty simple. You do have the beam sword / tomahawk. This is the deployed one, and then you have the stored version. And I think this is the storage piece, if I can get it out of here. There it is. So I believe this just kind of pops in. Let me grab the figure here. So this pops into here. Maybe I have it. Do I have it upside down? No, I had it right. There we go. Gotta get it in at an angle. And then this piece will just slide right through. And that is an incredibly tight fit. So another accessory that you want to be careful of, you can see it gets thinner there in the center, so you don't want to be turning it and kind of take a downward or upward turn, because you will snap this thing right in two. So do be careful of that. So for the sword itself, you have a couple different options. So let's see here. How does this work? Let's take a look at this. Alright, so you actually use both handle configurations. So if you have the sword, it'll plug into the shorter handle, the same one that's the stored version. And then when you want to use the tomahawk style, it's the more deployed one, which is interesting. And you do have an alternate blade that's more of a kind of like a pick for that one there. So interesting design there. So next up is the shield. It's a really cool looking shield. You have a nice emblem on the front there, and then you do have some cool stuff inside the shield. I guess these are rockets, and then you have either grenade launchers or smoke launchers or something up here. There's not really any data on these things inside the shield. This pegs into either arm. Pretty simple. It's on a ball joint, and that's the only way to put the shield on the mobile suit. So pretty simple and looks good. And then you also have an interesting weapon here. This is a beam shot rifle, so same style of gun that the Sazabi uses, oddly enough. And this is in a green and gray color scheme, which completely doesn't match the figure, but this is the correct color scheme for it. And does not have a removable magazine, which is a crime, but it looks really, really cool. It's obviously has a World War II real-world gun design based on a few different things, most notably probably the MP40. But it's a cool little gun. It's all a solid single piece. I mean, it doesn't really do anything, but it looks nice. And then you also have fin funnels here that are deployed. So you have 6 of them, and they look very similar to the Sazabis or the Yak Dogas once they're deployed. And they're pretty cool looking. You have little thrusters in there. And speaking of funnels, this mobile suit, or figure rather, comes with some really neat funnel effects. So let's take a look at those real quick. Okay, so you get some pretty cool funnel effect parts, which is surprising for a regular Robot Spirits release. So you get 10 of these arms here, and this is kind of where the effect part starts. And this is the adapter for the Psycho Doga. This will fit on the back, and we'll show it all attached together, of course. These are the little fin funnel connectors. You get 10 of these, and they peg into the ball joint that's on the arm, and then the funnel will pop into here. And you have 2 separate effect parts that kind of go together. So they're kind of sharp. They're very similar to the version anime effect parts, so I'm really surprised that they threw these in here. And then we have these pieces, which I don't really understand why it comes with these. Of course, I can't get them out of here. But they're pegs. So they're just like the ones down here that I showed you, but they're longer and they're pegs. I even looked in the instructions and it doesn't really explain why they're in there. So if anybody knows, let me know. Maybe I'll figure out later in the review. But you also get a removal tool in case you want to remove pegs. Once you have everything assembled, it's kind of hard to remove the little tiny pegs out of there. And then you finally get this big giant adapter piece, which we will talk about in a little bit. So let's see what it looks like put together. Okay, so before I show the final product here, I wanted to show the longer pegged piece is right here, and this fits over this effect part. And then the shorter little one with the peg at the end fits over this effect part. So you get this kind of double boosted effect. The fin funnels are hard to take off of the pegs. They're in there really, really good, so you want to be careful not to snap the little wings off. But that's how it attaches. Alright, so this is what it looks like when it's assembled. So we're going to go ahead and spin them around here. The connector will connect to the same place where the beam tomahawk stores. It also has an alternate little piece that fits at the end that will allow it to connect to a stand instead. But these are the funnels. So you have this multi-piece effect part here, and then the arms just connect via a ball joint in there. You see that the normal funnels up here can be connected as well as the deployed ones. So it is a cool looking little set. I really like this effect. It works well. It's not too complicated. The yellow effect parts are really sharp. You will cut your finger if you're not careful, like I did, when you're pushing them all in together. But otherwise it works perfectly, so really, really cool looking. So if you were wondering what the larger connector was, this is what it's for. It is compatible with the Robot Spirit's Nightingale. And that's also why it comes with 10 of pretty much everything, is because it needs 10 to put onto the Nightingale. It attaches fairly easily. It recommends removing this canister. It does slide right over. I would do that instead, just so you don't break these pegs here. And it fits right on, super simple. So it looks really, really cool. Obviously anything with the Nightingale looks cool because it's just a big expensive hunk of plastic. But I really like that they made it compatible with this, so this is definitely a plus for the Psycho Doga. So the Psycho Doga had the potential to be a really great figure. Unfortunately, it had a couple shortcomings that made it not so. The fragile verniers on the back are a really big deal, which made it where I had to buy 2 of these. The first one I spent, I think it was $104 and change. And the second one was $112 and change. And that's, $216 that I spent just to have one of these figures working, which is outrageous. The fin funnels don't stay on the shoulders very well. The hands are kind of fragile. So, there's just a lot to it. I bought the figure thinking, oh, great. There's no antennas or anything I have to worry about, nothing really fragile to it. And then this is the first figure I've had that actually broke. So it was kind of disappointing to me. Outside of that, it's a good figure. It doesn't have all that great of articulation, but the fin funnel effect is really nice, and it comes with all the weaponry and things that it needs to have, and it looks great. that's one thing it has going for it, is it looks really good. It is a very plain design, and that's just how it is. But I mean, the figure looks really nice. So we'll go ahead and do a little spin here, but you can see the mechanism down here for the fin funnels. But it's a really cool looking figure on display. One thing to note, I think you can see it back there. It actually has it has head thrusters, which is really interesting. But I really like the figure. I love the design. I like these oddball, not so known designs. And I was really excited for this one. And I just got really disappointed when, my figure just junked out on me like that. I mean, to hear that snap and then realize, oh, this thing's kind of done for, is just really disappointing, especially on a figure that cost over $100. So pick it up. Now that I've warned you on everything to watch out for, hopefully you won't run into the same problems I do. Don't let it scare you off from picking it up. Just be careful of what I talked about. Take my $100 lesson and use it for yourself so that you don't have to have these issues. But otherwise, it's a nice one to pick up. It looks like the price is already starting to go up on it, so if you are looking to get it and you haven't done it already, go ahead and get it now, because it's probably going to go into the 120, 130 range, is what I'm kind of predicting. But overall, it's really neat. The compatibility with Nightingale is really cool if you're like me and you spent way too much money on that thing. Kind of gives it one more gimmick that makes it worth it. But I hope we get more stuff from Char's Counterattack, Beltorchika's children. I think there's another Geara Doga variant that was from there that we haven't got yet. So hopefully we see more of this. I really like this little subline that they're doing here. Not really a subline, but the Beltorchika's children stuff. So hopefully we see more of it. And thank you for watching the review. Sorry it took so long. Hopefully you understand. And I will see y'all next time.